In part 5 of the series called The Mount, Steve Engel takes us through a next chapter 6 of Matthew, or the next part of this sermon, where it seems like Jesus is trying to pry our cold, dead hands off of the stuff that we have.
Yeah.
And I love your approach. I think it's so good. So quick question.
Yeah.
How do you know when your spiritual vision, because this is really what you were talking about, how that gets blurred. How do you know when it's starting to get blurry? What's your personal warning sign that you're kind of slipping back into kind of a scarcity mode?
I think when I get more possessive over things, like there's some people in my life that are just so generous all the time. And I'm like envious of. Maybe in a healthy way. I don't think it's sinful, but envious of like how well they live that out. And so, because there's moments where things start getting a little tighter, and I start getting a little more possessive. Or probably the biggest one is when I get more pessimistic about things. I'm usually a pretty optimistic person, and when I start getting pessimistic, it's something's clouded. So
I'm gonna try to get out of that cloudiness and
that's
go
just
for
usually
spiritual LASIK surgery.
Exactly. That's usually the indicator where it's like I've got to readjust my vision. So.
It's so wild to me. Like I try to have self-awareness in that, because my wife and I will sit across and we're just like discussing and we're just like that scarcity. Like how are we ever gonna? All while drinking some sort of nice wine that somebody gave us, and the sun shining, and
before you're going to your nice dinner, and you have plans for tomorrow.
What are we doing here? Your vision gets blurry.
Yeah, Amanda and I literally had that conversation this past week, where it's like, if we were to if we got less Amazon packages that showed up at our house, if we did DoorDash less, if we did all these things, it's like things wouldn't feel scarce. Like we'd be fine, but we put ourselves in that position all the time.
Exactly. Gosh, what we focus on shapes what we become. You said. So in this really noisy, distracted world, what are some practical ways that you think we can kind of retain, vision that aligns with the kingdom of God?
Yeah, I think it takes naming those things that you start to recognize, like when something causes pessimism or possessiveness or whatever. Start naming those things that are pushing you in that direction. Like I said, anytime I get really into watching the news or reading what people are saying on different social media outlets about things that are happening in politics or whatever, I get real pessimistic. I'm like, okay, these things are working together, so how do I, and like I said, maybe unfollow some accounts or maybe distance myself from that stuff a little bit, because those things don't define me. I don't love those things, so why would I give my attention to those things? And so start figuring out what do I love and how do I give my attention to that? And go from
recognize maybe what waters you're swimming in. Although I do worry about some Christians that will just say, "Well, I don't know what's going on. It's too stressful. I don't want to know anything. I don't want to see anything."
There's a tension we live in, because you want to have awareness. Obviously, you want to know what's going on, because there's injustice. There's no way to fight injustice if you don't know what the injustice is. And so I think it's important to be aware, but there's a difference between awareness and inundation, where you're like, I'm so consumed by all of this, and I can get there real quick.
I think I'm with you.
I actually was hoping that you would pick up on that.
This is not a conversation. This is an intervention. So if someone who's with us today wanted to invite others into this clear-eyed way of life that you just talked about, where should they start? In their family, in their relationships, in their friendship, in their work? What's one small step?
Yeah, I think so much of this passage from Jesus is really, I didn't get to it that much because it was so much about understanding how we see, but it's really about priorities.
Yeah.
What do you prioritize? Yeah. And so I think, figuring out, okay, what do I want to prioritize, and then seeing how for me, it's a good place to start. Here's what I want to prioritize. How much do those things get of my time? And if it's not 1-to-1, then there's something off, and starting to figure out, okay, how do I adjust that? If these are the things that I love, if this is what I prioritize, but this thing down here is getting all of my time, I need to adjust something there.
I think that we can do that.
Yeah, I think we can do that. I think it's a great place to start. I mean, obviously there's some things like work and if you don't love your work, which we know nothing about.
But I love everything.
If you don't love your work, you're obviously going to have to give time to that. So it's like prioritizing the things around that. So, yeah.
I love that. I think that's attainable. I think we can do that. So this week, church, what if each of us chose to see differently? Maybe one moment, one relationship, one situation at a time, we just look at things differently. And instead of seeing through the lens of fear, comparison, that's me, we pause and we ask, what does love require of me here? What if we shifted our focus from what we lack to what we've been given to share, what we have right in front of us? Just imagine the kind of community that would create, families that would feel safer, conversations that are probably more gracious, decisions made with peace instead of panic. Imagine Cornerstone Fellowship being known for our clarity, for people who see the world not with blurry eyes, shaped by anxiety and fear, but by the light and the love of Christ. That's the kind of life Jesus is inviting us into. That's what I want to invite you into. That's the kind of church that we're becoming. So let's start this coming week with clear eyes, full hearts. No, clear eyes, open hands. And as usual, let me put a question here on the screen that you can use to go a little further in exploring all these truths. My encouragement is that as I leave it up for a few minutes, that you turn to someone and attempt to answer it, or maybe answer it in the chat with others who attend Church Online with you, or throw it in the group text, talk about it with friends, write it at the top of your page in your journal. Here's the question: what is shaping the way I see right now? Fear, comparison, love, or something else entirely? I am so glad you were here. I hope that you'll join us again next time.